Everyone, and welcome to Djcharlie'S Sports World. Today's segment is going to be on my Djcharlie'S English Premier League ranking for the 2024-2025 Premier League season. So what I'll do basically is I'll predict how the 20 teams will be placed at the end of the season. I will start counting down from the 20th position to the number 1 position for me. So I'm trying to divide the segments into the relegation battlers, that's the relegation strugglers, the teams that will be struggling to avoid relegation, down to the second tier of English football, the championship. Then also teams that will be the middle of the pack, which are going to be teams from the 15th position down to the 10th position. Then teams that are going to be contending for Europe, which means teams that are either going to be qualifying in the 4th position for the Champions League, or teams that will be qualifying for the qualification rounds into either the Europa Conference League or the UEFA Europa League. Those teams are from the number 9 position to the number 4 position. So the top 3 teams are teams that are designed as title contenders. Those 3 teams for me are the only 3 teams that are capable of contending for the Premier League this season. So without much ado, let me start from the relegation battlers. So teams that are going to be slugging it out to avoid relegation this season include Southampton, Ipswich, Leicester, Wolves, and Everton. I've decided to add the 3 teams that came up from the championship this season because they didn't strengthen much. Some lost their key players to transfers to other clubs, which was surprising for me. So, but Ipswich made few signings that I was happy with, and I see them being so difficult to beat, just like Luton was last season. But unfortunately for them, I still see them going down into the championship. For me, the number 20 position team will be Southampton, number 19 will be Ipswich, number 18 will be Leicester City, who won the Premier League as recent as 2016 when Jamie Vardy, the likes of Ryan Mahrez and N'Golo Kante were superb. That's, for me, is one of the best seasons in Premier League history, and it's probably the greatest win for any club in the history of the Premier League. So, but I see them going down. They are trying to rely on Vardy for the goals. Of course, Iheanacho left this transfer window, and they are trying to rely on Vardy for the goals. For me, his 36 or 37-year-old leg cannot carry them to survival this season. So I see those 3 teams relegating with number 17 Wolves and number 16 Everton just barely surviving this season to make it till next season at number 16 for Everton. Then the middle of the pack teams for me: number 15 Nottingham Forest, number 14 Bournemouth, number 13 Fulham, number 12 Brentford, number 11 Crystal Palace, and number 10 West Ham. For me, number 10 was between Crystal Palace and West Ham, because Crystal Palace, their new coach, Oliver Glasner, the former entrant Frankfurt coach, did a great job this transfer window, holding on to the likes of Magegi and Eberechi Eze. Those are like their signings of the season because they didn't let them go. Those are key players that could have signed for at least contenders, European contenders like Tottenham, Aston Villa. You have the likes of Brighton, teams that are above them, but they hold on to those, and they have made a couple of signings that I'm looking at. I don't want to conclude yet, but I see them fighting to qualify for European places but failing at the end. Then I have West Ham at number 10 because West Ham also, they made a host of signings, players that are in that are wanted in bigger clubs. They make sure they sign them. You have the likes of big German striker Nicolas Füllkrug, Then you have the likes of, hold on, sorry. You have the likes of Nicolas Fulkrug. Then you have the likes of signings that are going to complement the ones that they have. They have goal scorers like the wingers like and Mikel Antonio. You have the likes of my Ghanaian wizard. I usually miss his name. You have the likes of Bowen, the England winger, who can also play as a striker. Then they got Nicolas Fulkrug now. Of course, they have midfield depth still, and I see them ultimately finishing in the 10th position this season. Then, for me, the teams that are European contenders, that means they are in line to either qualify by a long shot for the UEFA Champions League, or they will definitely qualify for either the Europa Conference League or the UEFA Europa League. For me, at number 9, I don't see them recapturing what they did 2 seasons ago when they qualified for the Champions League. They haven't strengthened. I don't know why. They were bought by billionaire consortium from Saudi Arabia. So I don't know why they haven't spent a lot on them. Maybe they are trying to avoid financial fair play, breaking financial fair play rule though, because I can't seem to remember a major signing they made this transfer window. But you can still bank on the likes of their striker for me, who is a great striker for me. I'm not underrating him. Their striker for me, the Swedish Alexander Isak is still there. I tip him for scoring over 20 goals this season, so that is going to pull them. Then you have Bruno Guimaraes is still there. I was shocked to see him still there. None of the big European clubs secured his signing this transfer window. I was shocked that he's still there. So you have flying wingers all over the place in the squad that will supply goals. The likes of Avi Barnes, and the likes of the England winger who started this weekend. I've forgotten his name. Sorry, I'll get more of these informations across later. So for me, Newcastle will finish 9th. Then you have I'm extremely low on Tottenham this season. I see them finishing not in more than 8th position, because of course they are full of talent, but their coach is he has failed to be pragmatic when he needs to be. He's one-sided. He just thinks everything is attack. Even when he's playing bigger clubs or teams that he knows that can exploit their defensive weakness, he still relies on attacking every single time. So for me, their defensive frailties at the back is going to cost them a lot. As we have seen this season, it's already costing them. They have already drew some games. So for me, they are going to finish at the 8th position. But I see the likes of Madison, Heung-min Son. They were able to sign Heung-min Son. They were able to hold on to him. He's now the captain. So the likes of Bissouma in the midfield. Then they signed the young boy from Championship, Leicester City, Ashley Gray. So I see them improving a little. But at the back, I don't trust their defense for me. So they are going to finish in the 8th position for me. At number 7, I have Manchester United. I don't have a lot to say about Manchester United other than they signed a couple of youngsters. Of course, they were happy to let Jadon Sancho go to their rivals, Chelsea. Let's see how that pans out. Then they were able to save Varane, and they were able to revamp their defense by signing Lenny Yoro from Monaco, the 18-year-old central back, the tall, lanky central back from Monaco. They also were able to sign Stefan de Ligt, who, for me, his career, I don't really know what to say about his career, but as a youngster at Ajax, I could remember 3 or 4 seasons ago when they qualified for the Champions League semi-final, it was looking like the second best central back in the world, only after Virgil van Dijk, his compatriot and captain at Netherlands. But unfortunately, he has regressed. I wouldn't even say if he was still at that level that he was then, he would be one of the top 5 central backs in the world football. But he has regressed a bit, so I think he can recharge his career back at Manchester United. Then they were able to sign Djcharlie'S also. Then they were able to sign, I think they were able to sign, who have I mentioned then? Yes, Manuel Ugarte, the defensive midfielder who is coming to replace Casemiro. I see him helping them. That's why I would have had them behind Tottenham, but those two key signings of Stefan de Ligt and Manuel Ugarte, and also the underrated signing of Lenny Yoro and Djcharlie'S, I see them improving this season. But that improvement is not going to put them more than 7 positions. Of course, they came 8th last season. Then for me at number 6, I have Brighton. Wow, I don't know what to say. They have already won twice and drawn against Arsenal this season. Their new coach is a more pragmatic coach than De Zerbi of last season. They were one of the best attacking teams in the Premier League last season, but like Tottenham also, they couldn't defend to save their life. So I've seen some of the difference in this season now with their new coach taking a pragmatic approach to defense. So when they were spraying balls around in the midfield, I see that their fullbacks are not flying to the flanks like they usually do, leaving the back chorus like they did last season. So I see them. For me, they will come 6th, but I won't be shocked if they finish higher than 6th. For me, I think I take them to be the surprise team of this season's Premier League. Then at number 5, I have Chelsea at number 5. They've not started well in the Premier League, and they were shaky also against Havertz in their last Europa League game, losing that match. But for me, when they put everything together, I see them improving massively. I was shocked when they didn't get another striker. I don't know what that Nicholas Jackson boy have over them. I mean, maybe they are seeing what I'm not seeing. Maybe they feel he's a 20-goal striker per season in the Premier League, but I doubt that. For me, I was shocked. They were playing with Osimhen. They were trying to swindle Osimhen. Instead of buying him outright, they were trying to swindle Osimhen. So for me, I see them finishing in the 5th place. I didn't mean they bought a recognized striker. For me, I would have seen them crashing into the top 4. But for me, I see them ultimately missing out just by a whisker and finishing in the number 5 position. Of course, I'm impressed by Cole Palmer's season last season, and I tip him to even have a better season this season, which he has continued to show me. And also improvement from the likes of Enzo, likes of Casaido, and the underrated Romeo Lavia, the 20-year-old midfielder. And you also have the likes of wingers like Madueke, you have Nkunku also, you have Joao Felix competing, Jordan Sancho competing for 2 places at the wing. So I don't even know how they are going to use them, but ultimately I see their new coach, Maresca. I see him working a little bit of wonders there. I have faith in him. Then at number 4, I have Aston Villa. Why I still have them there is because of their coach. I'm not going to talk about the players. Of course, they signed Amadou Onana. They signed a host of improving players also. So for me, the reason why I have them at number 4 is because they have one of the best coaches in world football, one of the most underrated coaches in world football, the Unai Emery. For me, Unai Emery is one of the best coaches in world football. So I'm going to give him that honor now and see. I don't see him finishing less than 4th, because last season that he got there, even without many investments and with lacking preparations, he still secured the 4th position. So I see him securing the 4th position for at least another season again. So then for my top 3 contenders, I don't want to talk much about them. Liverpool failed to add to their midfield. I was thinking they would sign a recognized number 6, which they lacked last season, but they failed to do that. I think they want McAllister to play like a trequartista in the midfield, like your typical Italian mezzala in the likes of Andrea Pirlo, like role in the midfield, with Gravenberch or My Japanese guy, what's his name? Enzo. No. I've forgotten his name. The Endo, Gravenberch. Then you have Dominik Slobozai is playing in an advanced position as the number 10, but I feel he can still come to the midfield and help them also. So they didn't make many changes. They didn't add. They are banking on the likes of Van Dijk to have a better season than he did last season. The likes of Kwanzaa to improve, to provide competitions for the likes of Konate at the central back position. Then Alexander Arnold also, and Robertson. Those are consistent players. Then they have wingers galore. That's their strength for me. That's why they are a contender for me. You have the likes of legendary wingers slash forward player in Mo Salah, one of the best players in the history of the Premier League, and he's growing like fine wine. He's still one of the best players in the league, arguably still a top 5 player in the league. So they will be banking on him for at least 20 goals and at least 10 to 12 assists, like he always provides every season. Then you have the likes of Luis Diaz also. You have the likes of Diego Jota. And you still have the likes of Darwin Núñez and the Holland winger. His name, I always miss his name. Still there. So, and you have the likes of Harvey Elliott, who can play in the midfield and also play as a winger and as a number 10. So their team is stacked going forward. They won't be. There's not going to be a shortage of goals at Anfield this season. So for me, they will just finish at the number 3 position. And then for the number 2 and number 1 position, as an Arsenal fan, Arsenal fans will be expecting me to say Arsenal will ultimately win this season. But until they do so, I'm not going to tip any other person other than the juggernauts, Pep Guardiola's Man City, to win the league. So I see Arsenal still coming second this season, barely losing by at least a point or goal difference, getting closer this season. So I see them ultimately coming second this season and seeing them winning it next season when the likes of Kevin De Bruyne are hold and have probably moved ahead. Of course, Gundogan came back, he would have probably moved ahead. Then you have the likes of Haaland. Maybe if he's fit this season, I see him getting nagged in the Premier League. So maybe he won't be as potent as he is next season. So, but for me this season, Arsenal will still finish second. Of course, the likes of Odegaard, Declan Rice, the likes of Bukayo Saka, you have the likes of Kai Havertz, likes of William Saliba at the back with Gabriel, the best defensive partnership in world football right now. You have the likes of Calafiori battling in there with Zinchenko, and also you have the likes of Ben White still there. So the Arsenal are full of players all over the place in midfield. You still have the likes of Partey. Thomas Partey is still there. You still have the likes of Syria winners like Jorginho are still there. The European winner, the Champions League winner. You still have them there. You still have wingers galore, Martinez, Leandro Trossard. There are players all over the place, and I see Sterling playing a major role. I don't know what Chelsea was thinking about letting him go, keeping the likes of, I can't even pronounce his name right now. I'm pissed because I thank God Arsenal did not sign him and sign Trossard instead. I can't even remember his name. That's how inconsequential he is. So Modric, or whatever they call him, Mikhailo Modric, keeping that guy and letting experienced Premier League goal scorer like Sterling go. So that's going to bite them in the ass. They are going to lose. They are going to miss Sterling, and their loss will be Arsenal's gain this season. I see Sterling scoring nothing less than 12 goals in the Premier League this season and about 15 goals in non-competitions. And I see him grabbing nothing less than 6 to 7 assists to have a great season and be back in the England setup as one of the wingers that will go to the World Cup in America in 2026. So for me, he's still 29. Maybe because he has been playing football for a long time, people seem to think he's an old guy, but he's still 29 years. He's not even 30 yet, and he's still as fast as ever. So with the likes of Odegaard and Saka playing off him and him off them, he's going to grab a lot of goals this season. So finishing first, like I said earlier, is Manchester City. I don't need to wax lyrical about them. They have won the Premier League for 4 consecutive times, which has never been done. They have won 5 of the last 6. which has also never been done. Of course, they are trying to win the 5th one in a row, which I ultimately see them doing, because Kevin De Bruyne missed half of last season as their best player and they still won. So the likes of Foden are still there, and they made an underrated signing from Girona, their baby club in Spain this season, in Savinho. So I see Savinho terrorizing left backs from the right flank, and I see Jeremy Doku terrorizing right backs from the other flank. You still have the likes of Foden, and you still have the likes of Kevin. You still have the likes of Bernardo Silva, Rodri. I can't even say for me, Rodri is arguably the best player in the whole world right now, and is there. I mean, and I've mentioned like 6 or 7 players before I even mentioned his name. So for me, there's no gainsaying in saying that they are still going to win this season. Look at them at the back; they are stacked. You don't even know who is going to start week in, week out. You have the likes of John Stones, Ruben Diaz, Manuel Akanji, Nathaniel Ake. You still have the likes of Josko Gabdiol. You still have the likes of Kai Walker, Rico Lewis. I don't even know what to say about that team. So for me, they are still easily the best team in England and arguably the best team in the world. Arguably, why I said arguably is because Real Madrid they won't play the best, but they eventually win. That's how they win their thing. So for me, Manchester City is the best. They have the best players in the world, but let's just say for the sake of argument that Real Madrid are the European champions this season. So Real Madrid are arguably the best club in the world. So that's that about my top 20. Yeah, about how the 20 teams will be placed for the Premier League. So I will quickly do, because I think I've already passed my schedule time, but I will quickly do a run through on my Djcharlie'S EPL prediction of the awards at the end of the season, which is the EPL awards prediction for me, Djcharlie'S EPL awards prediction. So for me, for the top striker, this is, I don't know, there's no, whoever argues with me on this is either a fool or I don't know what else to say. Other than Erling Haaland, of course, will be the top goal scorer this season again, because we are at a time where there are lack of top class strikers in the Premier League. Harry Kane was the last world class striker in the Premier League aside from Haaland, and he left already for Bayern Munich. So for me, Haaland will comfortably be the highest goal scorer. People that can give him a run for his money includes the likes of Mo Salah. I see Salah, if he's leaving Liverpool at the end of the season, he might look at this like his last hurrah and score 30 goals this season. If he can do that, he can beat Haaland. So he's the only person for me who can do that. Then you have the likes of Son, just honorable mentions. You mean Son, then you have Cole Palmer, because he's the penalty taker for Chelsea and they will concede a lot of penalties. He's going to score like he did. He scored 9 Premier League penalties last season. So I see him scoring about 7 at least again, and I also see him scoring outfield goals more than he did last season because of the improvement. I see him scoring like 22 Premier League goals. If that's enough, I will be surprised. Then you have the likes of Oli Watkins, then Alexandra Isak of Newcastle. Then you have Dominic Solanke, who Tottenham have signed to replace Harry Kane. So if he can improve a bit, he can also reach the 20 goal threshold, but that won't be enough to beat somebody like Haaland, who had a down season last year but still scored over 27 goals in the league. I think he scored 27 or 28. So this season he's getting back to at least 32 to 34 goals. So already he has 7 goals in 3 matches. So I'm thinking who will be able to beat him. Let's just forget that. Nobody will. So for the top playmaker, which is the top assist maker, I have Kevin coming back to win that this season. He's won it almost every other year, and of course he was injured last season but still came back to supply about 9 assists in, I think, 15 to 16 games in the Premier League. So for me, he averaged at least 1 assist in 2.5 games. So at that rate, he's going to get nothing less than 14 or 15 assists in 38 matches, and I don't see anybody else getting there. Probably Salah. Salah too gets to 12 to 13 assists per season. So then you have the likes of Cole Palmer. He's the linchpin at Chelsea. He's the one who is going to I mean, you call one thing in basketball, they call it the usage rate. For me, his usage rate will be the highest this season because everything will be funneled through him. He's the one who's going to receive the ball to now pass to the wingers or do whatever he thinks is okay with the ball. So for me, he's going to be one of the top assist makers. And you also have the likes of Saka, who also provide nothing less than at least 9, 10 to 11 assists per season. You have Odegaard. I see him improving his assist rate this season up to about 5%. So I see him getting like 10 to 11 assists. I'm not sure that will be enough to beat Kevin. Then you have the likes of Madison at Tottenham. If he can have an injury-free season, he can also get there. So for me, for my player of the year, this one was very dicey for me because if Arsenal succeed in beating Manchester City to the Premier League title, I see Odegaard or Saka or Declan Rice winning that POTY title. That's the player of the year. But I seriously doubt that. But for me, I think Salah is one of the best players in the Premier League. If he can just have a last hurrah season, he can also win this award. Then for me, the 3 best players in Manchester City, of course, no disrespect to Phil Foden, but you know, he benefited from Kevin missing a lot of games last season, and also benefited that Manchester City did not have flying wingers to have a perfect season last season. When I was even shocked they won the player of the season. Of course, he was one of their best performers in the league, but he was not the highest goal scorer and he did not supply the most assists. So I don't know why. Maybe because he was an England player, that was why he won the player of the season, because he's not better than Rodri. You can't put Rodri now down and put Foden down and say he's more valuable than Rodri. There's no way. Of course, Rodri missed 4 Premier League games last season and they lost all 4. And they didn't lose any game that he played in the Premier League last season. So I was shocked that award was given to Foden. For me, that award belonged to Rodri last season. So the top 3 players for me right now in Manchester City are number 1 Rodri, number 2 Kevin De Bruyne because of age, and number 3 Haaland. But for me, with the rate Haaland started this season, I see him scoring nothing less than 34 goals in the Premier League. So for me, he's going to grab his 2nd player of the year title this season, just slightly ahead of Rodri and Kevin this season. So for me, that's that about the player of the year. I see the top 5 being Haaland, Rodri, Kevin, Salah, and Saka for me. So the young player of the year, this award is tricky. They rarely give it to the same player back to back, but for me, since Cole Palmer, the recent winner, is still eligible, is going to be eligible again. Saka is not going to be eligible because you have to start the season being 23 years or younger, and Saka is already 20. Saka is still eligible though, but for me, Saka won't be looked at like a young developing player. Of course, Cole Palmer should not be looked at like that, but of course, Saka is more advanced in experience than him. So for me, I tip Cole Palmer winning this award back to back because I'm trying to see his impact at Chelsea. That impact is going to be so great for me at Chelsea. So if they are, especially if they crash into the top 4, so for me, it's going to repeat. But players that can give him a run for his money, I won't put Saka. I will put Kobe Mainoo of Manchester United. The 18-year-old midfielder is, I don't know, he controls midfield like a maestro. So for me, he will push Cole Palmer. Then you have Harvey Elliott also at Liverpool. He's a gadget guy. He can play the central midfield, can play both wings, can play as a number 10, first 9. So for me, he's a talented young player. So for me, he's going to push Cole Palmer too. Then you have Manchester City's only signing Savio from Troyes and Girona. So I see him also, the 21, he's 20, so I see him, he's a winger in the mold of Messi. Let me put it that way. He's a very tricky winger, but he needs to add goals to his game. So for me, I will see him pushing Cole Palmer, but not ultimately meeting. Then you also have Aston Villa's new signing, Amadou Nana. I've mistaken his name as Andre. Somebody did that recently that he was joking around about with at the just concluded transfer in the ongoing transfer window when he wore "I'm not Andre Onana." His name is Amadou Onana, and he's a lanky midfielder with the stature of Pogba, and he's a physical midfielder also, and he chips in with goals. So for me, if he can grab 10 goals from midfield this season, he can push Kopama for the Young Player of the Year. But ultimately, I see Kopama winning that one. So, signing of the season. This one, I'm not going to say a person will win it, but I'll just give you like, I'll give you like 8 or 9 or 10 of them that I see are great signings, that are underrated signings that can win the best signings. You have the lack of Savinho that I've said. For Manchester City, you have Calafiori, the Italian defender who's just signed for Arsenal, like I said. And you have Nicolas Füllkrug, the big German striker who just signed for West Ham. If he can score like 14 or 15 goals, that will make him the signing of the season. Then you have the likes of the Leeds that I said. You have the like of Ugarte, who just joined Man U also. You have the likes of Dominic Solanke, who left Bournemouth and signed for Tottenham. You have the likes of Gundogan coming back as a free transfer. For me, that's for value already. For me, that's the best signing of the season for value, because they got him on a free transfer and we know who he is. He's a serial match winner. He chips in with crucial goals that are, I don't know, needed at the end of the season. You don't have to look at 2 seasons ago when Liverpool and Manchester City were tied at the end of the season to win, and Manchester City was already down 2 goals down to Aston Villa. He scored an hat-trick in that game to ultimately bring Manchester City back to win that game 3-2. So to secure that league title, of course, the Premier League trophy has already been flying to Liverpool when Manchester City was 2 goals down. So that's the caliber of player he is. So for me, he's going to chip in with at least 10 goals from midfield. That's book that. So he's going to replace Kovacic in the midfield, and he's going to partner with Rodri and everything. Is going to be like 2 seasons ago when Manchester City won the treble, defeating everybody in their part and winning the Premier League, the Champions League, and the FA Cup. So I see them doing that this season again. That's what I tip them to win the Champions League, the Premier League, and the FA Cup this season. So for me, and then another underrated signing is Raheem Sterling to Arsenal, and you also have Emily Smith-Rowe from Arsenal to Fulham. He has already chipped in with 2 goals in just 3 Premier League games, so I see him improving a lot there. Then you have the likes for the manager of the season. I don't want to talk too much about this. The only surprise in my top 5 managers is Aston Villa's Oliver Glasner, who I see doing a lot with Crystal Palace Oliver Glasner, who I see doing a lot with Crystal Palace this season. So if he can get Crystal Palace into the top 10, he's going to be one of the contenders for manager of the season. Then you have the likes of Pep Guardiola, Arteta, Unai Emery, and Arne Slot, the new Liverpool manager who has also adapted to the Premier League easily. So, but for me, the manager of the season is still going to be Pep Guardiola. For me, he's still going to be Pep Guardiola for me. So, contenders for team of the year. For me, the team of the year, usually when I do my team of the year, I usually get them at least of the 11 players. I usually get at least 7 or 8 right. Like I did this season when I predicted almost all Liverpool and Chelsea and Arsenal. Almost all Manchester City and Arsenal's players to make it, and they did make it. The only people that I put that didn't make it are Saka, who didn't make it, and also the goalkeeper Ederson of Manchester City that I put. He didn't make it. It was Arsenal's goalkeeper Raya that made it. So you can see that I tried a lot for my prediction last season. Odegaard, Rice, Rodri, midfield, they all made it. So my central backs, I predicted Saliba and Gabriel, they both made it. So Kai Walker, he made it. So those are my predictions and they made it. So for me this season, my goalkeepers are undoubtedly between David Raya, Ederson, and Alisson again. At right back, I have Ben White, Alexander-Arnold, and Walker. players that are going to make the player of the season, people will be thinking I'm only mentioning Liverpool, Arsenal, and Manchester City players, but that was how the EPL is. Go and check the history. Most of the players that make it are from the contenders. They don't usually put players from the 6th or 7th place team. So for me, at right back, it will be Ben White, Arnold, Alexander-Arnold, or Walker. So our central back is going to be usual suspects like Saliba, Diaz, Van Dijk, and Gabriel. Do you understand? So that's just it. Our left backs, I have Gabriel, I have Chelsea's Cucurella, I have Tottenham's Udogi, and I also have Liverpool's Robertson. So for me, then at midfield, players that I tip are contenders to make the 3 midfield slots are Rodri, Odegaard, Rice, McAllister, Mino, Enzo, Kevin, and Bernardo Silva for me. So in the 4 positions, I tip Kopama, Oli Watkins, Saka, Salah, Haaland, and Foden to make it. So that's that about that on my team of the year. I don't want to go into when it gets to the middle of the season, probably at the January transfer window, I'll come back for my definitive player of the team of the year shortlist. So that is that about that. Like I usually conclude with, thanks for waiting patiently and bearing with me, and I know that I didn't disappoint you. If you have any queries about my list, whatever it is, let's slug it out in the comment section to this video, the comment section to this video. And if I see a comment that is engaging, I'm going to come back in another segment and talk about that comment. Then I can give my own viewpoint on the comment and argue with the person who gave the comment. So that is that about that. Thank you for bearing with me. So as always, please like and subscribe and share this video for me on all your social media platforms, including YouTube, including WhatsApp, including Instagram, including TikTok, including Facebook, Twitter, whatever platform it is, I'm there. So you can subscribe to this channel at Djcharlie'S Sports World. I will really appreciate it. Thanks and God bless. Peace.